coming back to another example in my domain, this is an industrial control system, and it has a big red button, as most industrial control systems have. And the idea is that you push the big red button when something's going wrong, right? And whether or not something's going wrong may have to do with these lights over here, may have to do with what's on that screen, right? So big red button is pushed with high latency because there's a human involved. Whenever something on that screen or in the form of those lights looks wrong. That means that if you're, from a security validation standpoint, that you need to prove that changes in the system will be reflected on that GUI within some fixed amount of time, right? Because if it takes a day before sensor change actually causes GUI change, then that big red button is probably not going to be pushed in time, right? So this sounds silly, because obviously we can write a system that will just change the GUI within very quickly, right? But can you formally prove that? I mean, can you guarantee that? For a talk long ago for a user group, I was talking about the effects of caching and did an experiment where I allocated many very small objects into a large vector and then deallocated them in the same order that I had allocated them. That went quickly. Then I shuffled the vector and then deallocated them in the order that they were in, right? So having been shuffled, that went slower because of cache misses. And then just for shits and giggles, I divided that vector into 6 pieces, because I was on I think the first Core i7 had 6 real cores, and deleted them in parallel just to see what would happen, right? And this means that everybody's fighting over the heap lock, right? There's also false sharing because these objects are smaller than a cache line. And what had taken 100 milliseconds shuffled took 14 hours. And to be fair, I've done this more recently. Somebody fixed the heap implementation. So now it only takes 20 minutes. But still, there's a big difference between 100 milliseconds and 20 minutes, right? And this, this is a very Machiavellian example. But somebody deleting many linked lists that may be sharing cache lines on many threads in parallel, maybe some kill signal was sent or something, this could actually happen, right? And so we need to be able to prove that things like this are not going to happen. Otherwise, we can't prove that. I mean, in practice, somebody's going to be sleeping and not push that big red button. But security validation people, they don't want to hear that, right? So we can't just put a pi0 in here and fire up some Qt GUI, right? We need to actually make a GUI that's deterministic. And these things take an embarrassingly large amount of man hours, right? And if you look at something from Siemens or some other industrial automation company, they have their own GUIs. And they look like crap. And they cost way more than they need to. So can we make a deterministic GUI with this mixing composition thing, right?